half boy, half god, all Apollo.
All right, new vibe.
You're listening to Ranking Rick Riordan, a podcast about Percy Jackson and the whole wide rest of the Riordanverse. I'm Dan.
I'm Olga.
And I'm Clara, and today we're discussing the Trials of Apollo, Book 5, The Tower of Nero.
This is part 2, and we're going to kick off at the beginning of the recap. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay, so Luguselwa, Meg's surrogate mom, tricks Nero's men and saves Apollo and Meg from an Amtrak ambush. Apollo doesn't trust Lou, but they have to work together. They stop by the Jacksons to regroup and meet baby Estelle, and she's adorable.
Yeah, let's stop there.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the Amtrak part just because I've spent a lot of time on Amtrak.
Yeah, same.
It's funny because this is like my location that they went to, and I'm like, it's not really a location.
No, I loved it too.
Yeah, I think Rick has done a decent amount of Amtrak travel as well. So
also, Lou Guizella, I'm just gonna call her Lou because I can't really say that. Was very good in this book. I liked her quite a bit.
yes.
Yeah.
Same. Yep.
So Apollo throws Lou off of a roof to trick Nero into thinking they're enemies. Nero plans to blow up New York with Greek fire if Apollo doesn't turn himself in soon. Meg and Apollo plan to turn themselves in, and then Lou will set them free so they can defeat Nero.
I tried to make this as quick as possible because a lot of different machinations happened within all this. Estelle was great. Paul Blofeld was great. All that stuff.
Big fan of the blow.
I bet you are.
Wow. Never knew that about you, Olga.
Oh my god, okay. They travel to Camp Half-Blood via the Grey Sisters and learn more of the prophecy.
I really liked this because it was sort of a full circle sort of moment throwback.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. At camp, they reunite with old friends and family, and we learn that Nico has been struggling with PTSD, hearing voices, and Jason's death.
All right, let's talk about Nico. You didn't say anything, Clara.
Yeah. Okay, so here's I had a really mixed I gave myself whiplash here because immediately I was like, yes, the Nico I know and love. And then my second thought was like, so you only like him when he's sad? Which is not true. This reminded me again how much I really wish we had something in between with Nico in between Blood of Olympus and the bad first book.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I would have liked to see more of his happiness that felt authentic so that I didn't feel like this.
I mean, it's complicated because why do we like Nico? Because he's a very conflicted character that has dealt with a lot of difficult things, and we can relate to that, even if we can't relate to every individual thing. And I think that then just making him happy-go-lucky, it just doesn't ring true to that person. And also, it kind of, what is his personality without the angst, I guess, is honestly an honest question I have. And I don't think Hidden Oracle answered that. Whereas here, I feel like they find the right balance between, he has angst and he's still dealing with the trauma, which I think is realistic, but he does now at least have this person he can rely on.
I agree. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say not just rely on, but also with Mr. D, trying to help it. He does have, sort of a therapist going on as well.
Yeah. I kind of would have liked, and also it would have made no sense, but just for Nico taking away everything else, if this had been him in the first book, and the first book Nico had been the fifth book, that we could have seen, that there could have been something there. I don't know, but it
I think, it's actually interesting because of what you were talking about in the previous part 1 podcast, as far as living with the tragedy is the human condition and blah, blah, blah. And so I think hard cutting to now everything is perfect for Nico just felt fake. It felt like fan fiction.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a big part of the problem. Here, I like that Jason is part of it, but not the whole thing. I like that he's getting therapy, quote unquote. The one thing I do wish that they had given him in this book is a more personal stake in the plot, because he was such a major character here and showed up at such pivotal moments multiple times that I'm like, I wish he had a personal stake against Nero. And I still, similar to how I felt in the first book, I wish that like Will had been hurt or Will was captured or something, so that when Nico bursts in with an undead bull, it's more than just cool. You know, like I want him to like have a more, you know what I'm saying?
It's to me, it's like a grand scheme of things thing, because like he's against Nero because Nero is like the last Roman emperor left / part of the triumvirate that led to Jason's death and all the trauma that they've been to recently.
But that just makes me go, man, think about how good it would have been if he could have fought Caligula.
Yes.
I know. I was thinking that too. Yeah. And then I also wish that like Caligula was the I don't know.
Yeah.
It gets very, it's all intertwined in such a way that I wouldn't want to change anything too much, but also maybe all of it could be changed.
Yeah, because as much as I loved the Frank fight and it was great like on a Frank level, I didn't feel like it was for Jason in the way that I might have with Nico.
Yeah. Here's my suggestion, because this is so unfair because I love Frank so much. but if Frank had died, then sort of nothing would have changed except that everyone kind of would have made more sense. Does that
Jason,
ring it all true? In place of Jason.
Yeah.
Because then Piper and Jason could have had a sort of amicable yet awkward breakup. So then Piper's end would make a lot more sense, or like ending vignette. Nico like could have we wouldn't have to really change how Nico was acting necessarily.
Because he connected with Frank too.
Yeah, he did. So like a lot of things could have.
And then we could have had Raina and Hazel be Praetors together.
Yeah.
It would have sucked for Hazel.
It would have sucked for Hazel. But also we see so little of Hazel as like a person. I don't know. I just feel like he did wrong by two people big time. And I would say it's Jason and Hazel.
I agree.
Yeah. I totally agree with what you're saying, Clara. Like, I like this, but also I would like a totally different structure.
Right, exactly.
Like, they're equally valid.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about Will after this book?
I like him a lot more. He felt like more of a character. I still think that there's a lot more room for him to grow. I still feel like he's very much like, I love Nico. Yeah. So here's me being like Nico's number one person.
Yeah. It still feels like fan fiction to me, but not in a bad way. Like, I kind of, I don't know. I like that we haven't seen Will as a character, because I think it would have felt really Blood of Olympus-y to be like, and now you're all gonna really love Will. That's it. Like,
I agree. I think he showed more promise in this book than I feel like he has in the previous ones, and I'm hopeful for the future. I just need him to have a life outside of Nico a little bit more.
I agree.
And that's why I think, honestly, my favorite moment for him was him making a Star Wars reference and being like the only nerd in the room. And I was like, okay, that's your personality. That's something that's yours, and isn't just I'm a nice guy who heals people and I love Nico. So,
but can I also say that like Rick almost sort of laughs about that himself, where like Nero starts glowing or whatever, and Rick is like, because Will can't even have one thing that's just his own.
That's funny. Recap return.
Right. Meg and Apollo both fear relapsing into their old ways when faced with their abusers. So Nero and Zeus, everyone's favorite people.
Meg is fantastic.
So good.
Yes.
They don't want to lose the progress that they've made. Awesome. Yes. Apollo, Meg, Will, and Nico travel to Rachel Elizabeth Dare's place in Brooklyn. She greets them with prophecy paintings, blueprints, warnings of creepy cows, and some Kane Chronicles Easter eggs.
Ooh, I did very much enjoy that.
Oh.
I did too, and was also like, bring them in.
Rachel's another major upgrade from Hidden Oracle here.
Yes.
Really enjoy her in this book.
She's back to being like the Rachel that we knew from before.
Yeah.
And not some petty, I don't know.
Yeah. And I actually like her relationship with Apollo here. So
me too.
I think that's good. I thought it was interesting that they ended up making basically the trio that they're with this one being Will, Nico, and Rachel. And I was a little bit disappointed, but maybe I think this might be not a real criticism as much as it is a disappointment, that the getting all the people from previous books together thing was just at the end, as opposed to like everybody coming together for the battle would have been, you know, maybe it's too much going on or whatever, but like having your structure be that each book is a different cast of characters and then just coming back and having the final cast be the same as the first cast basically, and instead of bringing them all together was a little bit of a bummer to me.
I agree, but also Hidden Oracle did Will and Nico so bad. Yeah, and I bet Rick actually, I wonder whether his first thoughts for this book were that he was gonna bring everyone in and then was like, actually, you know what? It didn't work well in Blood of Olympus, and also it didn't work well in Hidden Oracle the way it did that. So.
I actually I completely agree that I think that's what he was leading up to. And then it's like, never mind. It's too many things at once. Because I actually I felt like I missed out on some of the action later on in the tower. Of all this stuff is happening in the background with the fighting with Nico, Will, and Rachel that we don't get to witness because we're with Apollo. And I felt like, oh, I understand why we didn't see it, but I kind of would have liked to see them fighting and working together and all of this. Like, I would have liked the show not tell. So if you add in all of our other heroes, people, I would feel even more deprived because I'm like, well, why bring them back if I don't get to spend time with them or see Apollo spending time with them?
Since we're talking about the ending vignette thing, I just want to say that I had 2 spoilers going into this book, and both of them were incorrect. And one of them was, I thought the ending stuff, I knew everybody came together at the end. I actually thought they all came together because I knew they were all in the end. I thought they all came together, and I thought they were having a memorial for Jason. So this entire time I was like, well, it's really dumb they weren't at the funeral, but at least they're going to have that memorial. And then I didn't get that. Yeah.
Oh, well, probably for the best.
I guess.
Maybe.
I don't know.
To give you a new experience. Yeah, poor Jason, seriously. All right. Python speaks through Rachel and taunts Apollo. Then angry cows attack. The Tori Silvestri, I forget already, are basically indestructible, and our gang only escapes via shadow travel. But awesome shadow travel. Will glows.
Also, I do enjoy them falling down the cliff and then just blowing themselves up out of anger.
Yeah, that was relatable. Hashtag relatable. Will glows with the power of 1,000 suns as they travel underground and meet Nico's friends, the troglodytes. The 2 groups exchange food, stories, and threats as Nico tries to convince the trogs to help them disable Nero's Greek fire.
I have something that I would like to share that is the last of the quotes that I have written down. This is from Apollo convincing the trogs to help. But that is not why you should help us, I added. Not just because it is good for trogs, but because we must all help one another. That is the only way to be civilized. All right, so one of my first criticisms of the Percy Jackson series was like, oh, Western civilization is so often used as code words that end up propping up white supremacy. Not that that's Rick's intent, but that's just how this idea of civilization ends up happening, is that it's like an imperialist, colonialist project. So for Rick in this quote unquote last book, to take the concept of civilization and explicitly redefine it into being about different cultures helping each other is for me a fantastic, just again, full circle moment that shows he has this to me is really directly responding to a critique of the earlier books. And he is doing it really well and really thoughtfully, and not just with the sort of Rhea laughing at it, but I was blown away by that.
That definitely stuck out to me. I felt the same way. I also wonder how much of it was specifically aimed at the pandemic and the political spectrum at right now too. But because there also were very clear.
This book didn't come out during the pandemic.
Yeah, it came out in 2020, November of 2020.
Oh,
yeah. So
time is weird.
Yeah. And there were very, very, very clear Trump allegory things here with
100%.
Nero too. So Yeah.
But we had several years of him before pre-pandemic, so that was in line. Yeah. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the trogs and this whole sequence. I think it had the right balance of humor and like stakes and like lessons and emotions as well.
And it felt fresh.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I do overall enjoy the trogs. Not super excited about seeing more of them in the Nico book.
I agree.
Yeah. I really hope that they're just like a means to an end, and then it goes off. But
because I feel like I got what I needed. But we'll see.
Yeah.
So
they're interrupted by more cows, and everyone scatters. Really great action scene. Again. Apollo and Meg escape just in time to turn themselves in. Nero has already figured out most of Apollo's plan and quickly turns the tables. He has Cassius, his youngest, quote, child, take Meg's scimitars and chop off Lou's hands. Holy moly, that scene.
Yeah. That rivals the Nico Blood of Olympus scene.
I think it's darker.
I think it's darker. I think this now takes the prize for darkest Rick moment.
That was some crazy stuff. And man, did Nero go from 2 to 11 for me in that moment.
Yeah.
And not even just the hand thing, but the fact that he figured everything out, and just really getting to see him in the present and the way he manipulates people and the way he abuses people. I think that, and obviously we're going to debate who the better baddie is and stuff like that, but I do think he's one of the standout characters in this book.
The degree of violence is obviously like very villainous in a fictional sense. However, the manipulation tactics are not.
And forcing the young child to do it is just, while everybody else has to stand there knowing how terrible it is, but he has such a level of intimidation that even though they want to stop this thing, they don't even try.
Yeah. And the fact that it's like also shiny, like everything in the tower is very clean. It's business. It disguises the ugliness, which is like very much also stories of abuse. Like it's all under the surface. Like the abusers know how to manipulate without it being obvious unless you're seeing it. So Nero then locks Apollo and Lou in a cell while he rehabilitates Meg. Apollo heals Lou as best he can and collapses into sleep. I just want to say all the stuff with Lou and Apollo in the cell was really good. Like, how do you go from that horrifying dark thing? Rick didn't lean too much in the humor. He balanced it beautifully.
Yeah. I agree.
It was very well done.
Can we pause for a second? And we haven't talked about the barbarian thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Can I say at the beginning of the book, I was like, haha, Rick, like now you're making someone who's like Irish or like British into one of the villains. Like, good for you. And then she ends up being the one who's not. And I was just like, oh god.
And the number of times that he unironically talks about barbarians, I just I'm like, really? Oh, I mean, I'm not like that upset about it because of who they are, but like it's weird.
It is weird. I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, like, obviously in the first book, I feel like I talked about it, or maybe the second, but like it's very Roman.
Yeah.
I mean, and Greek, I guess, to have this concept of barbarians, but to make them literally monsters, especially in this where we like really see that actually like once their connection is gone from Nero, they're just normal people.
Yeah.
Wild. It's wild. That's so weird.
Yeah. Can we get a spin-off of one of the Germani having to like reintroduce himself and decide?
Oh, he enters the service industry and learns how terrible.
My next fan fiction after I finish my Desjardins Amos.
It's on the list. So Apollo dreams of Jason and realizes that it would be selfish to bring Jason back to life since it would be for himself and easing his own grief.
Great moment.
So good. Apollo takes control of his dreams and checks in on Meg. He discovers that Nero's fasces are being guarded by the Leontocephaline. Lou and Apollo bust out of jail and split up. Lou will handle the fasces while Apollo saves Meg.
I'm a little bummed we didn't get to actually see the Leontocephaline. Also,
Me too.
I love the call back to Mithras. That's who it is, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing from Mark of Athena.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
That was the cult
Yeah.
that Annabeth falls into and works her way out of. So good. Apollo gets lost and ends up in the control room. Thanks to skill and luck, he's able to hold off the guards long enough for the Trogs to disable Nero's doomsday weapon.
Great sequence.
Yes.
Really like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the better acting sequences in this book.
I could just follow
agree.
everything that was happening from here on out, like visually.
Yeah.
And this is, again, like Rick's so good at action writing.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm like, wait, how did we get here? Like it all just flows well. It plays out in my head like a movie.
Yeah.
Like very good job.
Yeah.
All Hades has officially broken loose as Nico and Camp Half-Blood arrive on the scene for their field trip. Rachel's having tons of visions and putting all of the pieces into place.
Can I ask, maybe I'm just forgetting, why is she having visions again?
I think because, what's his name? Python wants her to.
So
me too.
They're Python visions? It's not like Apollo's powers are coming back, so she's getting some...
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's like Python being like, I'm going to let her have these visions because it's going to benefit me.
But why is she listening then?
Because
I don't think she has a choice, and I think it is truthful.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the Python visions are true. They're just bad.
Okay. Because I was also confused, especially looking back, having finished the book. The prophecy that she gives as Python, I don't think happened. So was that like a fake prophecy or something? Or I just not reading it correctly?
Look back.
But
I don't have the book in front of me, so I...
Yeah, but we can talk about that maybe in the Apollo series review. But continue the recap.
So Apollo needs to climb the tower to get to Meg and has mini reunions with his friends and family as they help him reach his destination. Also, he drinks a Mountain Dew.
That was a funny thing.
I like that.
Good
job.
It was.
Yeah.
Better than nectar.
Yeah.
They run into a terrified Cassius, and he offers Apollo Meg's rings. Apollo, feeling pity for him, lets him go.
Phenomenal scene.
So
really
good.
liked it.
Yes.
Yep.
It's exactly like, even though it's not his own kid, this, I think, really parallels like Trophonius and how like Apollo doesn't like punish it. Like, I don't know.
That's a good point. I like that.
Apollo arrives alone in Meg's room and is treated to a video chat with Nero. Nero gives him 15 minutes to come up to the throne room alone, or he'll release a deadly gas that will kill all of his friends. Apollo tasks the Trogs with disabling the gas and heads to the throne room. I will say, the Trogs, while I really like them, it's like very convenient that they can just take out all the devices.
Every issue we have.
Yeah. Like, they got it. They can handle it. And I'm like, it would be, or Apollo could
do something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or Hephaestus cabin could do something. Like, I don't know. In the throne room. Well, see, this is the thing where maybe if like it was a reunion of everyone else, if Leo was there.
Leo and Josephine work together.
Right. Blah, blah. Yeah. In the throne room, 7 Imperial children are holding torches over 7 dryad pots. Meg enters with a horrid makeover that obscures her true personality. She looks pretty.
I was going to say, do you guys feel like this is continuing his anti-makeup agenda?
No, because it's not really just about the makeup. It's about like her being dressed up as like the beautiful Roman woman, like the ideal Roman girl. Like that's a little different, I think.
This is about, because there's also like a thing in the, is it this book or the last book where like she's starting to look more grown up and like care about her appearance more and stuff, whatever. And that's like, this is like a normal good thing in development. Like it, as opposed to this where it's being forced on her, like her parent is forcing her to look more mature and beautiful and, whatever.
Yeah. Nero gives an evil monologue about how Apollo is a user and so many great people died, all so he could become a god again. He spins the entire story of the last 4 books so that Apollo looks like the real bad guy.
Loved all this. This scene is my favorite scene, probably.
It really is. Because it's the whole thing of, not to get too much back into part 1 stuff, but like, Apollo's like, I'm trying to be a god again, but I don't really want to be a god anymore. Like, it's exactly this of like, oh my God, he's making me sound like the bad guy. But I did do those things, but not for the reason he's saying. Like, I think it toys with that line.
It's just,
very
it's
well.
very well written. Like, it's easy or not. You can write a manipulative character and have it just be like, oh, they're charming, so people agree with them or whatever. Like, this is actually like, I've come up with a good argument that like could persuade someone. You know, like, I don't know.
Nero leaves Apollo's fate in Meg's hands, but she is frozen. He brings up Daphne to rile up the dryads in the room and then forces them to attack Apollo. One of the dryads hesitates and as a result gets lit on fire by her demigod keeper, killing her. This is the thing where I'm like, if it was up to the dryads, like they may want to do, like he's forcing them into a situation. It's not guys.
And that's why I think it's really great because he has ammo. Like, you know, like he can make a real argument to them that, so what if Apollo's changed? He still did that to Daphne. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to, again, it's an improvement on Hidden Oracle.
Yeah.
It's because
dryads die for him there too.
Yes, they do. And it's specifically about Daphne. Yeah. And they still sacrifice themselves in a fire to help him, even though, despite what he did. So it's like a convolution of that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's so much more meaningful here.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
This makes me wonder whether was Hidden Oracle, obviously not everything about it, but was Hidden Oracle kind of disappointing and like unsatisfying because like, was it on purpose?
Or was it, I was going to say, was it necessary?
Right.
I think aspects of it probably were. Like, definitely, it being the way it is helps the series in certain ways. That said, there are numerous things that he could have changed that would have still had the same effect and would have been better. We still have the fact that I think most of the side characters in that book aren't interesting. We still have Chiron being an idiot. You know, we still have Nico and Rachel not acting the way they should. Like, all those things could have been fixed and it still would have had the same effect.
Yeah. It really is. The only thing where I could see it being like intentional is with Apollo swearing on the sticks to not play music or shoot an arrow.
We'll get to that later.
I'm sure we will. I'm just saying that I could see that being like, this is stupid on purpose. Like, you know, that aside.
Well, and I think he purposely made Meg and Apollo not very likable in the first book.
Yeah, sure. Gives them room to grow. But yeah, I would love to pick Rick's brain on this without coming off like, so we hated Hidden Oracle. Can you explain if that was on purpose?
Why?
Like, why did you do this? So Meg orders the dryads to stop and runs over to Apollo. He gives Meg her rings and a pep talk, but Nero orders his children to kill all the dryads. Meg explodes with anger and saves them with her earth magic. She finally stands up to Nero, calls out the beast is a lie, and tosses aside his weapons. The Imperial children are about to attack when Nico blasts in with an undead bull.
Amazing, so Meg. Hey, this is about
amazing Meg too. Yeah. Also, I love Meg, but also Nico's great.
Yes.
Yeah,
I just love the fact that Apollo's like, yeah, I understand why you want to throw away the weapons of your abuser, but like, are you sure that's a good idea?
That was good.
Like, even when he's like, yeah, you grow past him, but also you could really use those right now because I'm not much help to you.
Yeah. So I really, really, really like the throne room scene up until this point.
Yes.
And then it goes on a bit too long.
All right, so let's, all Hades breaks loose again. There's a big battle while Nero acts like a buffoon with a bunch of remotes, but the Trogs successfully disabled his gas. Apollo and Nico try to attack Nero, but he's still invincible and he backhands Nico across the room. Lightbulb Will walks in with Lou and Rachel holding Nero's fasces. Nero says Lou couldn't have defeated the Leontocephaline, and Lou said she didn't. She traded what the Guardian needed, immortality. Lou has immortality because Nero does, and that the two of them have been connected for centuries.
Just hitting on that last point, I do think that I felt like we were missing a chapter where they went into why Lou, like, what her backstory was a little bit more.
It felt like a deleted scene.
Yeah.
The director's cut has that in it.
Yeah. Because like I feel like it should have been one of the dreams, right?
Yeah.
It's like where we see he saved her from something or whatever.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I do think the buffoonery of the remote was too far in that direction. After they did such a good job with Nero, I just it didn't work for me. It was too much.
Yeah. I also had a moment where I was really taken out of the story when Apollo is trying to get the fasces from Rachel. And she's like, like, say please and tell me how great I am or whatever. And it's just a sort of like, this is not, we've done 5 books. Yeah. This is no longer the time. And if anyone is mean to this boy, it is not funny or endearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's again, like, hasn't he been through enough? Like, this isn't book 1, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I do think, like, there's a point at which, like, that's no longer what he deserves.
Yeah,
like, if we're going to talk about deserving, like, he does not deserve that in that moment. He really doesn't. Not with this group of people. Yeah. He's proven himself at this point.
Yeah. So Nero starts to freak out and tries his usual manipulation tactics, but this time he's out of luck. Meg offers to imprison him so his power doesn't transfer to Python, but Nero can't bring himself to surrender.
This is all great, too, because I do, even though it, like, makes him seem a little wimpy, I still like that he legitimately is afraid of what will happen if Python gets his power.
Yeah.
And I like that he also can't help himself. Like, he's afraid of Python and what will happen, but he still can't help himself.
Yeah.
He's a coward.
And yeah, well, and there's, like, a point that's made that's, like, he's just like all bullies. He's being manipulated by someone bigger than him who he's afraid of, which also gets into things like trauma. And we know, like, these Roman emperors are full of trauma themselves. And I think a huge message of this book is, like, okay, so you've experienced horrible things and you didn't have the childhood you deserved, and now you might be doing horrible things. And what is the line at the end of the book is, like, how can you break the cycle of the vicious cycle with a cycle of virtue into a virtuous cycle. And, like, Nero, for this to be his moment is, like, really great too, because you see how there are 2 sort of roads that you can go.
Yeah. It's really interesting because in some ways I'm like, just to jump forward, like, now I want to see more of, like, his children try to break that cycle.
Yeah, but I feel like we saw it through Meg, and that she's gonna help. I really like that she's, like, a leader now in a way. Like, I thought that was really nice.
I just mean to say that there's, like, the hope of that, obviously, but it's just, like, I'm just saying, like, a short story of, like, Meg with some of her, like, former siblings. Like, I don't know, there's, again, so much tragedy to mind.
Yeah, I agree. I could see a side story with, like, the worst of them struggling the most, right? And you know, not being able to, you know, stay on board with everybody else who actually is growing past it, but maybe this person had it the worst or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Didn't we just read that with Apollo though?
Yeah.
All right. So Nero and Apollo start a game of tug of war with the fasces, and Apollo revokes Nero's divinity. The fasces break and Nero starts to crumble, his power transferring to Python.
We had a lot of these moments throughout the series of Apollo being like, I am a god. And you know what? It worked every time.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So Apollo passes out and dreams of his godly family, betting on his chances against Python. They suck, except for Hera and Artemis. But even then, Hera, like, is bummed about it because of Jason, but not about Apollo. But, like, that's part of her own journey. She also
appreciates that Jason, that Apollo grieved Jason.
Yeah. Their reconciliation, however it happens, it's nice. Apollo wakes, bids farewell to his friends, and travels to Delphi via the labyrinth. He finds Python, and no, Dan, it's not boring.
It's boring.
No, it's fine.
I'll give him this. That at least he wasn't just a snake. At least he turned into other things too. But whatever, he's a snake.
Yeah, we've already fought a snake.
That's true.
If there's a friggin' snake in Magnus Chase, guys.
We know that our least favorite, I don't know.
The world serpent exists, but he just better not be the final villain.
Okay. Listen, humanity does not like reptiles. That's why they're the bad guys.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
The snake slander.
Okay. Apollo needs to sacrifice the arrow of Dodona to hurt Python, and it's sad but good for the arrow being all noble. Yeah, even the arrow had like a mini series, a mini arc.
I love the arrow.
Spin-off about the arrow.
No, thank you.
Please. Animated series.
Yeah.
Apollo pulls Python toward a pit and the two fall to the edge of chaos. Apollo pushes Python into chaos, annihilating him, but now he's just barely hanging on to the edge himself. Turns out that Styx was just trying to teach Apollo a lesson all along. It doesn't matter how loud your oath is. What truly matters is if you meant it.
Styx is so nice, guys. She just wants to teach people lessons.
Yeah.
She just wants some lessons to be taught.
I swearing on the Styx better not feature in the Nico and Will story.
Yeah. So is the implication that because he didn't really mean it, that he didn't take it seriously? That if he meant it and then broke it, that then she would have killed him?
Honestly,
Yep.
I was so disinterested in this oath by this point that I was like, I don't care. I think this comment about cancellation is more interesting, and I'm going to focus on that, even though it doesn't feature in the explicit text much.
I like your reading of that. Yeah. I think that works for me. I just Styx and the lesson works for me, but Styx being the one give the lesson,
I know.
Just no, it never worked. And also, as a side thing, I was interested. They fell into the river Styx and were almost consumed by it, but then he thought about Meg and came out of it. And I was like, is he gonna be impervious now? No.
Nah.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was interesting because that literally is what Percy did.
Yeah.
So,
is that what gives him his full godly form back?
No, I think that he just starts deteriorating when they get to chaos.
Yeah, it's like two.
Yeah.
I did appreciate going to chaos. I thought that was kind of fun. It was a little bit like knowing now that the Nico and Will book is also at Tartarus. That I was like, so we're doing Tartarus here, and we're gonna do it again. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
I like Tartarus. Yeah. It's a bad place.
But even chaos, I was like, oh, so he's fighting a snake at the edge of chaos.
Oh, where have we read this before?
Oh no! If only there were two magicians who could help him do it.
If only
Spoilers
they didn't.
For Kane Chronicles, I guess.
Sorry, whoops.
And it was also like, oh, and my essence is being pulled up. It was like literally the same thing. Whatever.
Listen, again, Egyptian, Greek, everyone is afraid of chaos and being torn apart. And snakes. It's the human condition.
I thrive on chaos.
Okay, so Apollo remembers his oath to return to Meg and bursts into golden light. 2 weeks later, Apollo wakes up all godly in Olympus. One of the best scenes ever in any of Rick's books. He reunites with his sister and they share some sweet and awkward moments.
It was good.
I felt the emotion of it.
I did. I felt the emotion too.
He rejoins the Olympians and Zeus is all like, this totally all needed to happen. Not my fault, bro.
Honestly, I enjoyed Zeus here quite a bit.
Yeah.
I felt like they did a good job of him, like, making him multidimensional while still being awful.
He, knows that he's like, my son probably hates me right now. Yeah. And Paul's like, I do, but I don't care about you or what you think of me. Bye.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, and like, if we continue to use this metaphor forever, which I will, Zeus also has an abusive father who literally tried to kill all his children.
As my friend Qui-Gon Jinn once said, there's always a bigger fish.
Wow. I would clap, but it would mess up the audio.
Is this a
Thanks,
Star Wars
Will.
thing?
Thanks, Will Solis. Yeah.
I know no Star Wars good.
Hey, you knew it was Qui-Gon Jinn was Star Wars.
I've heard you say this before, but yeah. So speaking of the Olympians, though, Demeter says Apollo is a wonderful slave. He served her daughter wonderfully. I would recommend. All right, shut up, Demeter.
And creepy.
Yeah.
I will Olga, when she first read it, was very unhappy with Demeter here, and I didn't like it, but I do agree. It's really weird that I felt like we were building up to Demeter throughout the 5 books, and then it's just oh my god, he's a great slave.
It's just like, to me, like, obviously Demeter sucks because she was not doing anything for men. she's like the ultimate absentee parent in a lot of ways, because like she has not featured in these books in the slightest outside of her like comedy bit with Persephone and Hades,
which I did enjoy for what it was. Yeah, but I do feel like I was waiting throughout the series to be like, when are we going to see the other side of her?
Right.
And I actually felt like we saw the other side of Poseidon. Of like, actually, he really doesn't care that much.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating. It was a really interesting choice because that was totally deliberate. Like that, and I don't know exactly how to interpret it.
Yeah.
And also Athena was interesting as far as like, she bet on him, but doesn't care, but he still had like, she had to have some level of faith in him to make that bet. Like, it's interesting.
Yeah. She's like calculating about it. And then you have, and as I said earlier, we have Hermes and Ares being like, so who are you going to kill as punishment down there? And what destruction are you going to reap now that you're a god again? It's like the extent of crappiness in this scene. It's supposed to be crappy, but it really, all those other things, it's like, all right, all those gods stink. And Mr. D is being like his sarcastic self still. Ooh. But it really, to me, Mr. D and Demeter really.
Oh, really? I was very on board with Mr. D.
I really liked Mr. D too.
Yeah, I don't know what your problem
I don't remember. There was a particular line that really stood out to me as being like, not quite odd, but it was at odds. So Mr. D, we know how he has the potential of being like better than he is from his interactions with Percy. So, and also we know that they did introduce the thing with him and Nico and their relationship here. So him like, again, and yes, we have the like, rivalry a bit between Apollo and Mr. D. But the fact is that because we know that Dionysus is capable of like not being a total awful person, dare I say, that like it felt a little too sarcastic for me.
I personally disagree.
Okay, I disagree too.
I felt like they were actually bonding, and I honestly felt like even though he wasn't fully there, I felt like he understood Apollo more than even Artemis did. But
maybe I'm misremembering something. I thought my takeaway from that was less that, but I could revisit that.
You reminded me of something that we passed that I needed to mention.
About Artemis?
So you mentioned the whole fact of like the dysmorphia and stuff, and he's not in the right body and all that stuff. In that same scene, there's jokes about him wearing women's clothing.
Okay, but I don't know. So, okay, yeah.
But then he also comments on it.
He does.
Yeah.
And I was shocked because I read that and I was like, ha, ha, ha. And then he's like, he changes into the like guy one and he's like, oh, it's pretty much the same. Like gender expression is really like a difficult concept. And I was like, huh, because it's maybe more sort of like, yep, he doesn't feel right wearing women's clothing. He feels right wearing men's clothing. And then he's like, how interesting that should even be a thing at all. Which is honestly, again, like, okay, Rick, like maybe this could be better, but also like, huh.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's just extra interesting in the context of him being in the wrong body. And
maybe
all that.
That's another reason that it actually like felt queer coded to me, because I was like, thanks for the allegory, but doesn't fully track. But like, now I'm thinking about this.
And he says something about Dionysus as well. Like
accusing to look badly or whatever, right?
Yeah. No. Oh. It was about the gender expression. And I was like struck by it and meant to look it up and didn't, so I apologize. But
let's keep with the recap.
So the Olympians don't get how much Apollo has changed, and Apollo realizes he'll never change Zeus. Apollo doesn't see Mount Olympus as a home anymore and wants to see Meg and his other mortal peeps again.
All right, so we've talked about this to death, so let's get to the vignettes.
So, he goes on a demigod farewell tour in his lesser form, and he hangs out with Chiron, Mr. D, Kayla, and Austin. Chiron mentions having met with a joint task force consisting of a severed head and a cat from different pantheons.
So I'm fascinated by this.
They specifically say there's an oncoming issue that will affect them all.
Yeah, so obviously the cat is Bast, and the severed head is from Magnus Chase, and I'm very interested, especially considering he was like acting like this was the end of the series and stuff, whereas this very much sets up a crossover. So maybe it will be a one-off, or maybe it'll be short stories again.
I hope so.
But yeah, I did not expect this ending to set up a crossover.
I like that it leaves room for it.
Yeah.
So Apollo then shames the Garden of Dodona for hating on his arrow and says it was the best of them. That was nice.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
That night, he chills with Rachel, Will, and Nico. Rachel is taking a gap year to study art in Paris, but will continue her duties as Oracle. Nico and Will set up their spin-off. They'll travel to Tartarus together to investigate the voices Nico's been hearing. These might include Bob. Maybe.
Don't need it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that was like Percy's big emotional thing in Tartarus.
I also to be clear, I'm not saying I don't need the Nico Will book.
Right.
I don't need it to be in Tartarus, and I don't need more Bob. Bob had his story, and I'm done. Like, it doesn't feel like
it'll
a loose
be really,
yeah.
Especially because like that was the book where Percy and Annabeth, to me, like more than Blood of Olympus, obviously, Percy and Annabeth had their like pinnacle moment, and so for that to just be like rehashed or to take away the intensity of the like choice that Percy and Annabeth each made just is upsetting, especially like and it's not that I don't want this Will and Nico book and that I'm not excited about having like co-authorship and but like especially in this sort of situation for that to be redone would be like very
the premise doesn't excite me. The idea of a Nico Will book does, but the specific tagline, synopsis, whatever you want to call it, does not excite me.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
We could be totally wrong though about what it will be.
I hope to be wrong. Yeah.
So another part of Apollo visits the way station. The hunters are still chasing the Tunisian fox, and Raina is having a blast. She's formed a big sister relationship with Leo and gives him advice about Calypso, who's off at band camp, living her mortal life. Leo lost his mom, but now he has 2 new moms, and he's helping underprivileged kids. Georgina still doesn't care about who her dad is, and that's great. Yeah.
Love the Leo stuff here. Really sweet and nice.
So I want to say something about Raina that I remembered after, oh my God, why am I so bad at remembering book names?
Tyrant's Tomb.
Thank you. Tyrant's Tomb. So remember how like Meg and Raina were horrified that Artemis helped Apollo kill Asclepius's mother?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then she joined the Hunters of Artemis.
Yeah.
Like
in the same
later.
Yeah. So I just like was reminded of that when she's like, I love being a hunter of Artemis. I'm like, that involves serving Artemis, right? Like, so again, it just goes back to like all the gods are guilty of the horrifying things that everyone was like, man, Apollo, you're the worst person ever. I'm like, all of them are the worst gods ever. So
we have 2 very contrasting pieces of feedback that we'll talk about next podcast involving Raina. So I have a lot to say and they have a lot to say, so I'm excited to talk about it, but next time.
Yeah, didn't mean to. I just remembered that in talking about it with Dan and wanted to mention it. So at New Rome, Hazel and Frank are like the best leaders ever. And oh my God, look at how great they are. No one's ever been this good at being a praetor ever.
Yeah, I hate
stupid Jason. Like Jason sucked at being a praetor.
Raina though.
Raina and Jason were terrible praetors, actually, if you think back on it. They sucked so bad.
And also, like, Raina's cloak is not actually her cloak. It's every praetor's cloak.
So confused.
Yeah. I hate that trope in general that, like, in order to, like, prop up a new person, you have to be like, they're the best one ever. Like, you can just be like, they're good. Like, you don't have to, like, put on the people that came before them.
Yeah. So both Frank and Hazel's curses have broken, so they got lots of money, and their lives are great. Yeah, I appreciated that. Also, Percy and Annabeth have arrived for college, but they are not living together because this is still a book for children.
I thought, honestly, so I liked the Percy Annabeth. The entire thing felt very awkward to me, but it was still kind of cute. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, you're 18. Please don't pull a Boy Meets World and, like, get married immediately. Like, this is better advice. Like, grow up a little separately. Follow Calypso's lead. Go to band camp.
Go to band.
I'll be interested to see, like, I'll be interested to see where we leave them at the end of Magnus Chase. I don't know whether anything will be different about how things end there.
Yeah.
So Apollo visits Piper and finds her macking on a mortal girl named Shell. It's new, but now Apollo understands what Piper meant about trying to find herself.
Thoughts?
Unexpected, but not unwelcome as a principle.
I am so conflicted. This is why, like, could Jason just have stayed alive because it would have changed nothing and you could have killed off someone else who then all of this would make sense. This is I mean, I don't know. Everyone can deal with their grief in different ways and they had already broken up, but also this does seem a lot. She didn't even go to the funeral.
It's less than a month later. That's the thing. On a Piper level, and if you take Jason out of existence, I like this for Piper. I think it is an interesting reveal because I didn't read what stuff she said in Burning Maze this way, but it makes more sense in this context. So I actually makes me like Burning Maze more. I like the reveal. I like that she's like with Immortal, and they're also not jumping to like, I'm in love. She's like, it's new. We'll see what's happening. Whatever.
Yeah.
I think all that's great. First of all, I hope that he's implying that she's bi and not just being like, oh yeah, she never actually was into Jason, because I don't believe that. But that's totally up to her interpretation, I guess. It does feel very soon, and it comes back to, well, couldn't Apollo have just woken up like 2 months later? Yeah, that would have helped a lot. But yeah,
I agree. My problem really is just that I'm like, this feels like a rebound.
Yeah.
Obviously Jason and Piper broke up a bit before. Yeah, they broke up and she dumped him earlier than he died, but like it was still traumatic to undergo the loss of him. So
the crazy thing is that she didn't go to the funeral. Like that for me just like is so that makes me I don't know. I don't have words for how much that irks me that no one was there for it.
Yeah.
And like, I cannot get over that.
I think the problem is that this is where Rick wanted to like leave her character. And I understand that. And I like that for her back home and with this new love and figuring out things. And you know, hopefully maybe we'll get more of this in the future. But I think that he did that at the sacrificing how much she had cared about Jason, and that I'm just shocked. Forget about like her moving on to another romance. I'm just shocked that her time with Apollo wasn't entirely about, you know, the grief. Like, and that's because we as readers spent so much time on Jason and Piper's relationship. I expect that to be, you know,
important.
Her grief to last more than 2 weeks, and you can say, oh, she's still grieving even if she is making out with someone else. But like, and that's fine, that's fair. It just
why didn't she go to the service?
Yeah,
why?
Why didn't a lot of people why wasn't there a memorial for Jason?
There.
Yeah.
Like she was literally like she decided not to, as far as I can tell. I mean, and there are like story like structure reasons for that, I guess, but like the fact that she didn't do that and then also is like we just don't see, I don't know, and it's probably not fair to her, but also
it just feels weird. It just feels in the real world, I'd say, you know what, I'm not judging you, you deal with this the way you want to deal with this, but in a story where I was invested in these two people and feel like Jason's been thrown under the bus so many times, it's you know, I don't know, it just feels weird.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I understand why he wanted to end the character here, and I like it as a thing. So like,
again, if it was a 2-month bump instead of 2 week, I think it would have been a big world. Yeah.
Or going back to the thing we talked about last time, if we had 2 different visitations for each group, we could have seen Piper still grieving, and then like 6 months later, we see her dating. You know, like that could have also been really nice to see.
I mean, I really do wish that we got a like that. I wish he came back a year later and we got a 1-year anniversary of Jason's death memorial, and they all came together, because that's the other thing. Is like, I feel like it's weird to leave Piper by like with the grief, leaving Piper by herself there. I mean, I know she has co-tagging her dad and whatever, but like, wouldn't you think that after you lost one of the 7, you'd want all the 7 to come together? and like
yeah,
honor that
would.
person. Like, I don't know. It just feels odd.
Especially when so many of them are in New Rome.
Yeah.
And like you could just go, you could just have a trip, you could just go there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As a funny side note, I got quote unquote spoiled about this a long time ago before we even started Apollo, because I was on the wiki for Piper and was scrolling past her love interest section, and I assumed it would just have Jason in it. And I saw that there was someone else, but there was an error in the wiki at the time where they named the person Sam. So this entire time, I thought it was a boy. Very weird.
Now I feel like I need to check the Kindle version.
Yeah. Oh my God, not this again.
Oh my God.
Let me see.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, I'm gonna move on while you check that and just finish it off.
Yeah.
It's Shell.
Okay.
It's Shell and Kindle.
Great. Apollo returns to Aithales to find quite the family living there. The family includes Meg, Lou, the Melii, the Dryads, the Imperial children, and Hierophily. Meg is taking charge of helping her foster siblings through their difficult transition. Apollo gives Meg a unicorn and bids her farewell for now. And then we get into the stuff that we spent all of part one.
I'm gonna use my bow.
Okay, go away, Daniel.
Daniel,
All right, so guys,
I wish I was there so you could see the look I was giving you.
All right, and with that, because of the timing and the fact that Olga has to get going,
Sorry, folks.
We're going to move all of the ranking to the next podcast. We're going to do a big ranking smorgasbord, and I'm very excited to talk about it. So we'll see you next time. Please write in all your comments, rate us, review us, all that stuff. Thank you, and may the gods be ever in your favor.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.